Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to another talk of the spiritual light. And I'm here for Stevan, who couldn't be with us tonight. And I also welcome Charles Kempf, and Silvia Gibbons. Hello, Charles. Hello, Silvia.
Hello,
Welcome.
Munir. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Your mic is on mute, Silvia.
I still can hear you, Silvia.
Sorry. Hello, good
Okay.
evening, everyone. Be back.
Well, it's a pleasure to be with you once again, talking about a topic that is so interesting. And before we start, just to mention that we decided to talk about a topic which is highly suitable for the moment we are experiencing in our planet, basically everywhere. There's not just here and there. And I think it will add a lot to this moment, which is the law of destruction. And the topic that was programmed for today, will be the topic of the talk for next week. So, the law of destruction. The law of destruction has been presented as one of the natural laws brought by the spirits, and we can find in chapter 6 of the Spirits book. And one of the natural laws is the law of destruction. So let's start with Charles. Charles, what do you understand by the law of destruction?
What we can observe is that in nature, everything is growing and then getting older and then dying, destructing, in order to restart again. So we know that we are human, we are incarnated here on the earth, and we know so far nobody is immortal in the physical body. So sooner or later, one day, we will have to give back this corporeal body that we have got as a loan for our incarnation. And we know that from the spiritist body of knowledge, the death is not the end of the essential part of us, which is the spirit, and that we are reincarnating. This means taking a new body of a nice baby in order to make one more journey here on earth. So basically, the law of destruction is law of transformation. And we can see in the nature a lot of things are like this. All what is vegetal or animal or whatever is submitted to the same law. And we can even go a little bit beyond that. You have, for instance, the sun. The sun has been, how to say, appeared through the condensation of some dust which was spread in the region where it has formed. And then the sun, composed essentially of hydrogen, is in conditions where this hydrogen is making a fusion to get helium. And this is, how to say, which is making the life possible here on the planets which are turning around the sun, namely the Earth. But we know that this hydrogen one day will be scarce and then disappear completely, and that the sun will die as well. And then what will happen? Okay, astronomy knows already what will happen. The sun will become very big. The size of the sun will even be embraced until the Earth. And even in the material things, in the astronomy, we can see these cycles, which can also be observed through the still yet hypothetical Big Bang and Big Crunch that could precede the Big Bang. So basically, what we call destruction is not a destruction, is a transformation. Okay, so we know, for instance, it is very painful for someone, for instance, for a mother, to lose his son or her daughter. It's very painful, particularly when we again go through if we follow the materialist paradigm. Okay, when he died, end of everything, there is nothing anymore, lost forever, and so on. But as per the spiritualist paradigm, we can understand, okay, he came, he had maybe a short life this time, but the soul is still alive and will return. And if the beloved one, we will meet again one day. Sooner or later, we will meet again with our loved ones. So it's not the end of everything. It's just a transformation. The mission has been accomplished in a certain way, and he has been freed from the physical body. So when we remove this, how to say, horrendous aspect of the death, showing it just as a transformation, showing it even as we get free from our physical body, the soul is then free in the spiritual world, not bound anymore to the physical body. The vision is completely different. We have a vision which is, how to say, we see more in the future. It's not this sadness or whatever that we can see when someone is dying. No, it is just the end of one step, and preceding the other step. We know that other step will follow. That's it, basically.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Charles. You mentioned something that, I want to add something on top of that. Is that, the universe, according to scientists, astronomers studying and cosmologists studying the principle of the universe was created basically with hydrogen and helium at the very beginning. So for us to get to the heavier elements that we have on the periodic table, the initial stars wouldn't provide them. We wouldn't find them anywhere in the universe. So those stars, they had to go through a cycle to the point of going through an explosion as such. In this explosion, they would then generate a second moment of stars that would produce heavier elements. So we see destruction. It's beautiful because you clearly see that the initial stars, they had to be destructed in order for the universe to produce heavier elements. Then we had carbon, which is essential for life. Then we had iron and all the other metals, and but we had to get that from this explosion. When a star like the sun you just described, it gets to a point where it can't sustain that anymore and collapses, and we can get explosions like the supernova and other stars that are created. It's very, very interesting. Let me ask Silvia then one question. Silvia, is then destruction necessary? If it is necessary, shall we promote destruction then? Or, there is something else that prevents us just to destroy everything because it's a law of nature. What's the point in preserving the forest, preserving the.
Well, destruction is necessary, as Charles explained, and it's part of the process. But doesn't mean that we have to go off destroying everything, because we have serious consequences to for our lives. And there is certain things that he needs to go, to destroy, to be changed. And the example you just gave is a perfect example, because that's how the universe is being created, and it's still to cut trees sometimes, to build a city, to build fields, but this doesn't necessarily that We need to take care of the planet, and I think one of the problems that we're suffering now is the discrimination in which we have. I mean, mankind as a whole seems to take of everything, trying to make life as easy as possible. You can, even if you destroy the land and nothing will be produced there, you need to reverse
Silvia, your mic is closed. Okay. Hello?
Hello?
I see.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
It's gone
Yeah.
automatically. Sorry. Can you hear me
No
now?
problem. Yes, yeah.
Hello. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. I don't know why. It went by itself and said I was blocked. Anyway. Okay. Just continue. So we needed to be, there is many of beings, of things and everything. But it doesn't mean that have to cut trees in one place. We needed to plant them somewhere else, and we needed to do it's part of the law of God that destruction will happen, calamities will happen, mankind progresses. He will learn through his intelligence to create, vaccines, or medicine, hygiene. Like, now we unfortunately been through 2 years of a pandemic. And although many people died, the number of people could have been a lot more. But, the standards of hygiene and medicine, how we could vaccine and all sorts of things, it meant. So there was that period of, because also in a way, testing man's intelligence and his patience, his understanding, is all part of the process. And as mankind progresses spiritually and morally, the world also becomes easier place for him to inhabit. But I think first and foremost, we needed to respect nature. We needed to deal with it because our planet is finite. We know that, and I think, like Charles said, our sun, I mean, our sun is very small, isn't it? So you would be what you call a red dwarf, isn't it? A white dwarf, rather than a supernova, cover the planet, so continue on this planet. But also the system will just, the sun will explode, will be transformed, everything. And from the derelict matter that will come from it, and as it comes from supernovas, a new system will be born, new opportunity for life. But I think while we are here on our planet, which I personally think is a beautiful planet, absolutely wonderful, we really needed to take care of it. We needed to, and I mean, sometimes, because there's quite a lot of things happening, but there are people doing incredible things. I was saying the other day, this man who's creating vegetables and kind of plants and things inside, caring for it and in a different way, so they don't have to abuse the soil so much. So there are many ways, there are many people working. And I think, recently we had the Earth Shot, the prizes that were given in New York for people from all over the world that are creating new ways of cleansing the seas and the environment. And some young people in many, many countries are doing quite a lot, which is wonderful. And this prize is so, Earth Shot is so important, because it's bringing together people with different ideas. They are thinking of the environment, and we have to help them, because every time I switch off the light, if I'm not in a room, I can switch off the light of that room. It's a little bit, but little bits is make the big thing, isn't it? Before you could fill the kettle up to the brim. Now you just put enough for a cup of tea. Why should you have, a whole thing? And uses a lot of electricity. So I think we can collaborate as well in preserving what we have. And if the structure comes, and we know it does, because we have many things that happen, then we have to face those things. But we are also in many ways tested, our perseverance, an incentive to our intelligence to find things. And talking about New York, the pictures that came from New York last week were absolutely incredible, unbelievable, wasn't it? That they had 1 hour, in 1 hour, they had a month of rain. So I saw pictures of Times Square, that they had like 2 meters of water. The cars were covered. You couldn't even recognize. So this comes. So we are aware. It's not somewhere in Southeast Asia. When it comes to the big cities, then we really take, we stop to take hold, don't we? And unfortunately, sometimes these things do happen, and it's unfortunate. So we needed to help those who have been through that, and give support. And also in a little way, every little bit counts, I think. So, it is part of the law of God, but we don't need to cause it. You see what I mean?
Yes, I think in the Spirit's book they mention 2 types of destruction, which is the one that's necessary, and we could see it as almost natural, and the abusive destruction, the one that comes from the abuse. And that makes me think, because if we look at the development of our planet from the biological point of view, we were very near to extinction. I think it's around 5 times. So basically, the species that we have today, they represent 1% of what existed at the beginning. Just 1% survived through all these. I think it's around that. It's less than 5%. So we went through destruction according to, depending on the moment, we had different factors, the temperature or something coming from outer space, in an asteroid or something. So we had, difficult reasons. And in modern days, human beings, they are considered one of the risk factors of the next extinction.
Yes, because we have become that. Yes,
we have become. And that's why what you just said is so important. Because if we carry on doing what we are doing, the way we are doing, of course, we will destroy things, and we force a new cycle. We bring them about. However, since we are here to develop our intelligence, first, we found the means of exploiting the nature that we had around us to survive, to live in comfort. And now we have to carry on developing, actually, to be wise enough to do it, preserving what is around us and not just destroying. Because we destroy things to survive, whereas we don't need to do that anymore. We have reached a level of development that we can use our intelligence, actually, And that's what we see in many, parts of the planet. We see people now trying to find ways. We see now that you can generate electricity from sunlight in much more than we could do, some decades ago. And we'll carry on developing alternative ways and preserving nature as such. But there is also another aspect. We see that nature is balanced. We see destruction and the instinct of preservation. They also, go hand in hand. We see in the animal kingdom, for instance, we see that animals have to destroy other animals in order to survive. And then there's a question, why? Why is that? Why is this destruction necessary? Yes, it is, because it is a way to control the proliferation or, the growth of a certain population. Then we would bring about an imbalance. So it's necessary to have some kind of destruction in order to keep a balance. Otherwise, things would always be, in a chaotic situation. And that's why we see, I always ask myself, why do animals, especially big ones, in the jungles, in the forests, they have to destroy other animals, It's something still so shocking, to see them hunting and killing animals, to survive. And we see that it is necessary. We see that sometimes a certain population of wild boar, for instance, wild boar can easily become a plague, can destroy crops, if we don't control that. So you say hunting is not allowed, but sometimes you have to do or to take some, actions in order to keep the balance of that population. Otherwise, you will create an imbalance. You won't have food because the crops will be destroyed. It will be overpopulated with wild boars, And just to, bring an example. Yeah. And there's another thing, our body as well. Since the day we had conception, we are basically getting transformed, going in the direction of, the final transformation, which is returning our borrowed elements to nature. But as Charles and you, Silvia, mentioned, we should look from a spiritual perspective, because if we look at the purely material, materialist of a physicalist perspective, we say, well, doesn't make any sense, I'll be destroyed. So life will become really boring when I see destruction, or I'll suffer a lot when I see destruction, because I will see that as the end, whereas it's not the end. It is a transformation, and a transformation for the better. And we only see the results perhaps in a few generations' time, not today. But sometimes we want to enjoy life. We are not patient enough, or we think that, we won't be back here. We won't, be able to see, the transformations that will occur. And but we see that in this material world, this kind of transformation, we see everywhere. But I want to hear you both. If, this will be like that forever, because we spiritually are evolving. We inhabit either here or in a different, world where the spirits will be more advanced and we will be more advanced. And, what shall we expect in terms of the law of destruction in these places? What do you think, Charles?
Yes. So today we are living in the earth where we know very well the life expectancy, lifetime, and whatsoever. We know what you and Silvia have said. Destruction is somehow necessary to keep some balance. And again, what we call destruction is no more than a transformation. And the transformation is aimed at renewing and also improving the living beings. So it's a transformation for progress. And Charles Darwin have seen that very well. So this is something which is very clear. Now, once we have evolved sufficiently, we don't need to incarnate anymore, at least not in material bodies as heavy as the ones we have today. Okay, so today we need to incarnate in material bodies. So the material body has some needs. He needs food. He needs protection. He needs clothes. He needs family, whatsoever. So this is inducing us to work, to think about, and this is exactly this process of betterment that we can have when we are incarnated. But once we have reached a certain level of evolution, it is not needed anymore to incarnate on physical bodies like we are. Physical body, the flesh is, the food for the flesh is the flesh itself. Even the vegetarian people, they must destruct some plants in order to have some food. So far, the pranic food is not yet something which is open, by far not to everyone. Even if some may seem to become closer to it. So far, we just need that. But at a point in time, we will not need it anymore.
What do you think, Silvia? I think yeah, Silvia is having
again
problem. Yeah. Can you hear us, Silvia?
The microphone is mute.
Yeah, you're on mute again. Okay.
Hello, everyone. I can't hear anybody. Something happened to the internet.
Now we can hear you.
Now we can hear you.
Oh, I could not hear you. So have you finished speaking? Okay. I don't know if it's something
about,
to do with my
at a given
internet
point in
or
time,
something.
we don't need to reincarnate
going
anymore
off.
to progress.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think, Silvia, about the needs of destruction in more evolved worlds?
Oh God, they've gone again.
Can you hear us, Silvia? I don't think she can. Well, we also see the calamities. There are so many calamities around the world, and we get afflicted by that. It gives us the impression that sometimes for religious people, this is a punishment. For non-religious people, this is the end of the world that is approaching, that is coming.
But for spiritists, it's not. Yeah. For spiritists, it's just part of this transformation. And sometimes when there is natural calamities, what would take years or even centuries for evolution is done in a much quicker time, thanks to this, between brackets, accelerated transformation. I use the word transformation instead of destruction. Yeah. But that's it. And these calamities have always existed. It's always something that is stimulating the human being to think about how can we prevent the calamities, or at least the consequences of the calamities. The perfect example is earthquake. You have seen in Morocco, it was a 7 or 6.8 or something like this, with a lot of people dying. And in Japan, you have almost daily such type of quakes and nothing happens because the construction, thanks to the progress of stimulating the progress, happening these type of things. How can we protect us? How can we protect the population against this type of calamities? So it is one example. And even if we die, the die is just this transformation we talked about, transformation whose aim is also the progress. So
Yeah.
these are somehow the natural calamities. Okay, as you told, the how to say, natural calamities always happened, and natural death is also something that is very common, part of law of nature, and we can understand it perfectly like this. But I think there is another topic we should touch now. Is there also some type of abusive destruction? You have told it in Silvia as well, by destructing, abusing, exploring this over exploration of the resources of our mother, the earth, which is it really necessary, or is it really is it already a little bit abusive? I think everyone can have his answer. One thing is sure, we cannot continue at the rhythm we are today of consumption, of energy consumption between others. This will not last even some decades, and even less some centuries. We will have to change completely, either through new technology, or, and probably both together, new technology and drastic reduction of consumption. And this is where, how to say, we will have to cut all what is superfluous, because all what is superfluous consumption is abusive. And another topic as well, which is linked to this, is what we are seeing nowadays in Ukraine, and more recently now in Palestine, in Israel, the question of the wars. And here we could say definitively the wars should not exist anymore. Okay, if unfortunately we have still some wars nowadays, and I think it's when we are thinking a little bit what are the root causes of the war, of most of the war, of the conflicts that mankind is facing nowadays. It's not just Israel, Ukraine and Palestine. There are, I think, 80 armed conflicts in the world nowadays. A lot of them, we hear a lot about two of them, but a lot of them we nearly don't hear about, or maybe they are also not so active as these two. And clearly the war, as per the spirits, they say humankind is led to war because of the predominance of the animal nature over the spiritual, and the satisfaction of the human passions. And to say, wars we had already in Middle Age and in the past, but nowadays, really, I think we are really reaching a point where the consciences are awakening. Do we still really need wars? Can we not do something to prevent these wars? When we look in the recent past, as 20th century, we had the WW1 and WW2, which was horrendous, all what happened there. But fortunately, after WW2, some measures have been put in place, and at least until now, for instance, between France and Germany or whatever, it is highly unlikely to have a new war. Why? Because measures have been put in place to say, okay, never again this. Unfortunately, this type of measures do not exist in some other regions. And when we go, what was the root cause of the war, WW1 and WW2, was one nation or culture or whatever willing to dominate the other one. WW2, it was very clear. The National Socialism was thinking this is the way for whole humanity, and we will impose it to everyone. So it is a question of authority against liberty. And what do we see in Ukraine? It's the same. You had a people, a nation, which was aiming for a little bit of freedom, and then the neighbor, which is against the freedom with the authoritarian system, is saying no. And so it's again a war of authority against liberty. And what is happening in Israel, in Palestine today? Palestine, you put you in the feet of the Palestinians. I don't want to take any party here. My party is peace. The war should stop. But you have a population suffering a blockus, squeezed and pressurized at a given point in time. It is exploding. There is no other way. So it's again a question of fight of authority, trying to how to say, to reduce because of territory, because of a lot of regions, because of religion, because of I don't know what. There are a lot of different possible things. One is willing to dominate the other one. And as long as this will happen, the war, unfortunately, will not disappear from the earth. The wars will only disappear from the earth, according to question 743 of the Spirit's book, when men and women understand justice and practice God's law, then all nations will live as brothers and sisters. And once we will reach this point, then definitively the war will disappear. And I really would wish that Israeli and Palestinians can live as brothers and sisters in the same way as, for instance, French and German today live as brothers and sisters. And that is then, to say, one key in order to make the war at least be reduced and with the time disappear completely from Earth.
Yeah, Silvia, do you want to add something?
Well, I agree with what Charles is saying. These questions of the wars, and there are many around. It's just that it's sort of localized. This is, I think, it is as terrible as it is. It's part of this transformation that the planet is going through, isn't it? Because we have, thank goodness, we didn't have a world war that could have destroyed the planet, because now, as you were saying, we now have become part of the thing that can actually destroy our planet. And 50, 60 years ago, people were terrified, because we could have had a war that would have destroyed our planet, would have taken. It's almost impossible, unbelievable to accept that, but we came very close to having a destructive war in the early 60s. And we know by things that the spirits brought to us, that was very, very close, that the spirits would not allow that to happen. That's something, and I would think there would be major calamities then. And I think now, if people don't, we, or as human beings, don't take ourselves seriously and try to become more friendly to each other, I think there will be a major calamity, and a great part of humanity will discarnate if we don't toe the line, because it's beginning to be ridiculous. We had 2 years of a terrible pandemic. And as soon as people, we started becoming freer, be able to see people, family, friends, and have a sort of, what appearance of a normal life, then you have a stupid war starting in the Ukraine. And there are many reasons in the Ukraine. We know that There is a lot of political reasons involved on that, and all the subterfuge that politics in Europe and in America, we know that. And now, when things seem to be peaceful, we start this major war in the Middle East, which can become very easily, something a lot bigger, because there is so many people involved. When you think, oh, the Palestinian and uh, the people in Israel, but there is a lot more. There are a lot of people involved behind this, and it's such a and it's a terrible thing, because I was thinking of going to Israel, and because I have never been to Israel, amazing as it seems. I've been every single other country, everywhere in the Middle East, except Israel. And I remember many years ago, the war started, there was something else that started, and I thought, oh, now it's okay, we can go. So some friends actually went in February, and now you'll not be able to go to Israel again, to see the things, and because there is another war. And I think mankind need to pull themselves together. Really does. It's time. We've been to COVID and hasn't stopped. There is a new strand or something coming up, killing people. We don't hear about it anymore, but there's quite a few people still dying of COVID. And there is political problems everywhere, literally everywhere. And now, of course, with this new war, there'll be a lot more people trying to leave, immigration and everything. And I think it's time for mankind to learn a lesson. And I think that's why things are being shaken up. When you see a country like America, and usually it's in the Midwest, that things horrible happen. But when you see a city like New York, almost covered by water, especially one of the richest place on the planet, isn't it? The little island of Manhattan. And I think spirit benefactors and God is telling us, not only Americans, but all over the world, that it's time for us to be more peaceful, to be more brothers and sisters to each other, because we will not be able to survive. I saw some terrible pictures of the Amazon, and when I first saw it, I didn't quite understand what I was looking at. There's part of the Amazon River that is completely, is really dry. There are no trees, and thousands of kilos of fish, and that that little dolphin that lives there in the river, thousands of them are dying because the water is too hot, because there isn't enough rain, because it's so hot. And I think this is part of what it says here, that if we don't do things, God will tell us, will force us into doing things, to be friends, because we already have, I think, which is quite frightening for my understanding, a river like the Euphrates, which is the birth of civilization, that river. I mean, even the land is called the Mesopotamia, because between two rivers, and now one is dried. And when you see the Amazon forest drying up, and water and fish is dying because it's so hot, there is no rain, calamities, all the rain that they have, a month of rain falling in an hour in New York, half of the city covered, people dying everywhere. I think God is trying to tell us, stand up and take stock and change, because things are going to go a lot worse. I mean, here, in England, yesterday was 23 degrees. Today was 18, 19. It was a little cooler. But I mean, 23 degrees in October. We're in mid of October. It's unheard of. It should be at least 10 degrees below this. We should be enjoying autumn, the change of the trees, and it still look like summer outside. It's completely crazy. And this is our problem, isn't it? Because, it's dry, there is no rain, and we're going to have maybe a really difficult winter, not only here, but everywhere. So I think God is telling us, take stock and start being friendly to each other, because you will not going to be able to survive alone. Little countries in different, no matter how important they are, how self-contained they can be destroyed in 1 hour. And I think if we don't take stock of that, things are going to be a lot worse. However, I'm not a pessimist. I trust that things are going to be better. Everything goes by, everything passes. And this is a period of time that humanity, we know that our planet is coming, is I don't think is going to, is already in the process of changing to a planet of regeneration. And many, many people who are being born now are giving their opportunities to be reincarnated here to learn, to grow. And if not, they are going to be reincarnated somewhere else. And all of us, we needed to learn those lessons, because we are going through this process now. And I think it's positive, even though there are things, those terrible wars scare and frighten us all. And, natural disasters and calamities, I think is calling our attention to what is happening. But there are wonderful things happening, like I was saying, the earth shot, people from all over the world coming together with ideas and doing work, new companies being developed to save the environment, to use, to, recycle, to produce, to clean the seas and everything. Wonderful things are happening, but they seem to be always overshadowed by the madness of mankind, creating more here and more there. Um, and I think after this period, things will be better. I believe that the earth will survive. Not all of us will. We maybe go to be reincarnated somewhere else, or we still, for the time being, we still have to be reborn here and live through many difficulties. But eventually it will be good. It will pass, and will be something that for the future is going to be wonderful, because we need to learn those lessons. And if we don't learn, because freely, we'll be forced to learning it, isn't it? So I'm very optimistic for the future, but before it gets better, there will be a lot of dancing around before that. So there
Yeah.
you are.
Before we thank Silvia, before we carry on, I just want to say hello to Stella Puig, Marco Davis, Elsa Rossi, always with us, giving her support here by her presence and her kind words. But yes, I think Spiritism has two key points to offer at this crucial moment, which is the immortality of the soul and reincarnation. The immortality of the soul gives us the perspective that whatever happens to our body, to our surroundings, we will live. We will live. We carry on living. And all these experiences, this transformation, Charles doesn't like the word destruction. I agree with him. All this process of transformation is good. Thank goodness we are in a world of transformation. Otherwise, it would mean that we've reached the end. No transformation anymore. That's it. And I want to move forward. So it actually is an invitation for us to go, spiritually speaking, to move with the material process that we experience here, developing ourselves intellectually, doing our best, and trying to carry on in this progress. When you mentioned, Silvia, maybe we'll reincarnate here or somewhere else. Some people get really afraid. Oh, am I keeping? I'm going to stay here, or am I moving to? Well, if I need to move to another world, that's the best world for me. Well, that's what I need. It's a bitter medicine, but that's the one I need. That's one I need to progress. And it's up to each individual. And also, in terms of wars, reincarnation shows us that today we are on this side, but who knows if tomorrow we are not going to the other side, or a loved one is not going to be on the other side. So whatever reasons we have, and usually I would say all of them, they are very materialistic reasons, power, politics, very mean interests that prevent us, from seeing other people as brothers and sisters in a fraternal way. And if we think that, well, today I'm in this position, but who knows if tomorrow I'm not going to come in his or her position, and see things from another side. Since I'm learning, I would probably have to learn all the, from all the perspectives, from all the experiences. That will enrich myself as an immortal spirit. So that's why I bring this. I think that these two aspects of spiritism, the pillars of spiritism, which is immortality and the two in many, but immortality and reincarnation in this case, to understand that this process is natural. My body will grow old, won't be the same that it was when I was 20. I'm also responsible for abusive transformation of my body, because the natural transformation will come inevitably. I can try to do something to slow it down, but but some people abuse of the body, and as a result, it is a type of suicide. I'm not consciously committing suicide, but I'm neglecting my instrument, my body. And so it brings, in this context of law of destruction or law of transformation, it shows us that transformation is part of life, and we should be happy. The Father Franco says that I was happy when I was 20, 30, 50, and now I'm 90, 6, I think he is. And he said, I'm happy as well. It's difficult to wake up in the morning, the body does not respond as it used to, when I was young. But it is part of life, It is something that I learn as an immortal spirit. And then I can take advantage of these experiences, because we have also our personal calamities, It's also part of life. And I think it's important to keep faith, a positive attitude in all situations. And as Charles mentioned, fraternity is the solution. The spirits, they say in the spirits book that in the future we'll see brothers and sisters in everyone. So that's how we should try to sort out situations that we find today, and hopefully these will come about very, very soon. And you mentioned this drought in the Amazon, but here in the south we are having too much rain. We just had a lot of rain last week. The dams are full, they're spilling out, they are in full, and they are forecasting more heavy rain for the next days. So you already have several cities underwater, and they are predicting that the amount of water that is supposed to rain now, enough to create the same situation again on top of the one that is already there. So you see the imbalance. The imbalance is everywhere in one way or another, and we are also bringing about these calamities to us. So that's when we answer for the promotion of destruction, this abusive destruction. And I think what we are seeing now is the result of some of these abusive destruction, together with the natural ones. We know we are always moving.
I would say, Munir, it's even true. It's scientifically demonstrated that records of being of heat and the heavy rains are much heavier than and much more frequently than before, and so on. So this is just the consequence of what we have already done. And that unfortunately we are still continuing doing more and more right now. Okay. So the nature will survive, it will recycle whatsoever. Will the humankind survive? You told it at the beginning, Munir. Really, we are now in the era so-called Anthropocene, Anthropocene, with the heavy effect of the human activity on the planet as a whole. And if we don't care about this very quickly now, there is a serious risk that the humankind may not survive. But again, I mean, particularly if we do it with selfishness, everyone willing to get the best for him, and to that the other one are tightening the belt and whatsoever, and even wars to avoid refugees, people who need to go out of the countries they are because of several reasons. People don't want to accept them. So this, with this type of selfish reactions, really we go straight in the wall. Okay, but with fraternity, with abnegation, with patience, with intelligence used for the good, I fully agree with Silvia, fully agree with you. The future of our humanity will be different, but will be much better, much healthier, much more fraternity, much more with much more spiritual intelligence, as we say today, because staying on the old track and rhythm, we don't go very far, and probably the transition will still take some time to come. So the things will certainly become a little bit worse, and I think really when everyone is really feeling it in his own skin or body, is okay. Now we understood, so let's do something. And
Yeah.
this is why destruction is needed, also to awaken the conscience of humankind, to go out of this, remove the blinds, and go out of this materialistic vicious circle, which does not bring us to anything or
Yeah.
anywhere.
And
But
you see
also there
how,
is the cycle of the earth, isn't there? That is also the circle of
yeah,
the circle, the cycle of the
cycles.
earth.
Yeah.
There has, you mentioned that. I mean, we had floods before, major, that destroyed practically the whole uh, of humanity, and we know that because it's in the Bible, is in the book of um, Gilgamesh, and it's in almost every single culture. And now they have actually found proof of it in the geology in many countries. They have found that line, so that there has been many changes. It's not only but I mean we making it a little harder. And like you said, there's so many much rain in the south and no rain at all in the rainforest. It's like Hawaii. I mean, whenever you saw picture of it was always raining, and now they had that drought that destroyed the whole town. The city was destroyed with the fire. So those cycles as well is part of the transformation of the earth. And we making, I don't think we can blame humankind for everything, but we are collaborating a lot more than we used to before. So we have to be careful. And we can't change the whole world, but we can make a little effort ourselves. And if everyone does it, it will be better. But I don't think also sitting in middle of the road and impeding people to go to work and going completely crazy, I don't think that's a solution either. I think it's actually is the worst. You have to
Yeah.
do things with reason, and I think we have to be optimistic, because we have to I believe that God is our father and he's looking after us, and we have benefactors. There are things that we have to go through because it's part of the human condition, it's part of the learning of the spirit. We go through difficult times, but things will be better. It will be better. This planet will be the wonderful paradise that it should be. And I'm positive, and that's what I think anyway.
Yeah, in one way or another, Silvia. Of course, it depends on what we do collectively speaking. It's going to be better in the future. But the only
Yes.
thing is, it depends on the the path we choose. It may be a natural, smoother one, or it may be a hard one. But we are constantly, and this is the law, because it is a law. We are under it 24/7. So the law will push us, and depending on how we react, we are going to suffer more or less. It's up to us. So we're running out of time. So I just want to ask Charles if he wants to say a few words before we end, and afterwards Silvia.
I see there is a lot of things to say on this subject, but I think the essential we have said already. So don't hesitate to ask questions, even in the chats, and also to contact us to suggest subject for the next emissions. So thanks a lot for your time, for your patience, and for your attention.
Silvia?
Okay. Yes, wonderful that you're here with us. And let's pray for this place where there is wars, and for enlightenment for those people who caused the law, those terrible tragedies, because no matter what reason, they will be responsible for every single life that's lost for their ambition, because there is a lot of pride and ambition when people start wars. There is no other way about it, and they cause a lot of pain and suffering to a lot of people, and they become responsible. So let's pray that they be enlightened and stop and talk and come to a conclusion for peace, so that we can take care of our planet, isn't it? Because wars, destructions of wars, causes a lot more damage than so let's pray that God bless us all and, enlighten all of us. Thank you.
Thanks, Silvia. Thanks,
Have a
Charles.
good week,
Silvia.
everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Yes,
Thank
all
you
the
for
best.
Yes, for being here with us. I hope we have given you some words of optimism, because not even death is the end. It's also a transformation.
It's
So
the
no
beginning.
reasons to worry. Yeah.
Yeah.
We are under very, very wonderful laws, which are the natural laws. So they couldn't be better. So thank you so much again, Charles, Silvia, all those watching us, and see you all next week. It was a great pleasure to be here with you.
Pleasure. And thank you so much for stepping in at such a short time and to help us. Thank you very much. And thank you,
Pleasure.
Charles.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank
week,
you all.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.